With Pulsex and Pulsechain launching so soon, have you ever wondered if there was a way to check like the heartbeat or like how well the vital signs, so to speak, if you could check the blood work of these brands, so to speak, in the ethos of society's mind, right? Super conceptual, right? Very heady to think about. Well, that's what we have today to understand Pulsex, Pulsechain, relative to the world. Anything else, right? Because you'd compare it to something. What if we compared to, say, Ethereum and Uniswap between Pulsex and Pulsechain? How can we do that other than just people's opinions of the world, right? What if there was a way for us to find a massive amount of data and use that so that we could trust the data and not just somebody's opinion and thoughts, right? Because the data will tell us the true story. Well, that, my friends, is exactly what I did in this video. This is going to probably be the first episode of many in relation to this going forward, because there's nothing else out there like this. Now, how did we do that? We took YouTube trends and Google trends to understand what was happening in the largest two search engine in the world. Google is the largest search engine. YouTube is the second largest search engine in the world. And the reason, or one of the many reasons why you know those names when I say them, is because of that. Because you've used those to search. So has a lot of the planet. And one of the ways that this has provided value is giving people what they want. Well, another way that Google has thought to give back, so to speak, and they're probably not even realizing this, is by giving that data out so we get to check to see what people are searching for over time. And that is what we did in this video when we took a look at data for Pulsex and Pulsechain versus Uniswap and Ethereum to see how they're doing, and then we're going to track that over time. So with that long intro, now you're spiced up and ready to go. So if this is your first time here, what's good? My name is Sam. For those of you who are returning, it's good to freaking see you. By the way, if you are returning and you haven't already subscribed, what is going on, bro? Jump down below, press the subscribe button, the bell notification. And for those of you who are new here, there is Twitter down below and Instagram down below. If you want to help out, I'm actually a contest with my buddy where he bet me I cannot beat him in Twitter followers by July 30th, right? So it's about 10 grand. The only way I can win is with your help. He's around 14,000 followers. I'm at like 3,000. So if you find value at the end of the video and you just want to like bored for some point, jump over to Twitter, press the follow button, press the retweet button on something that you find value in, drop in value over there as well. So let's get into the video. I'm super excited about these projects and I love data. I think it's fascinating because looking at the data is like reading a book, so to speak, to understand what is actually going on. And that is what we're trying to do here, and there's nothing like this in the marketplace. So we went to Google Trends and we put in Pulsechain and Ethereum worldwide over the last 12 months on YouTube. We also did the same thing for Uniswap and Pulsex, and we did it on the web. So with each one of these, Uniswap and Ethereum, as well as, Ethereum and Pulsechain and Uniswap and Pulsex, we looked at the search volume of both Google and on YouTube. And then we put that into a spreadsheet, right? So we could get a better idea of how these are relative to each other. Now, in order to understand these data points, we need to take a look at this one more time. This is the search volume for each one of the terms, Pulsex, Uniswap in this case, relative to the highest point during the time period selected in the region selected. So, worldwide, over the last 12 months, looking at Pulsex and Uniswap on Google, this is a web search, the highest point was right here. So all these other points are relative to this highest point. And what we get to see is that the average for each one of these is what we captured at the 12-month mark, 90-day mark, and 30-day mark for each one of these. And we put all that, by the way, the 30-day mark on YouTube for Ethereum is fascinating to look at. This is just awesome shit for you. I actually think it's the 90-day. Maybe it was on the web. Forget where it was. It was on the web, I think. Where just recently we see this pattern. So let's make sure you guys can see this. Let's scroll up a little bit. This, check this out. So this is over the last 30 days in web search. And you're not gonna see this data unless you're fucking looking into this shit, right? Like, press the thumbs up for that. Like, the only way anybody's gonna find this data and publish it is because like they're a fucking nerd and they're looking into this shit, right? Because they're fucking weird. Right? Nobody else is going to look into this shit. So make sure you press that thumbs up button because you're here. You're just as fucking weird because you're watching this shit. Now, put all that into the spreadsheet. Let's take a look here. We've got Google on this side, YouTube on this side. Again, color coordinated across the top here. Let's take a look at the networks first. So we get to see that Pulsechain is just basically non-existent from the 12, 3, or 1 month periods of time. Ethereum has maintained between high 30s and the basically high 40s in terms of search, relatively speaking. Now, when we go to the DEXs, it's a different story. Pulsex is far more exciting to people. Now, that's interesting, right? I said fucking right, because Pulsex is going to give people the opportunity to trade what they want to trade in for like a 10,000th of the price. How do you get that number? Well, let's take a look. If you look at Gwei, or just assume that the average price for Ethereum is 20 bucks per fee, right? Well, you could say that's lower, or you could say that's higher. I think a lot of people would probably argue that $20 for ETH is pretty low, right? So it could be much greater than 10,000. Well, what are the fees on Pulsex going to be? They're going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of. Sorry, this is not actually on Pulsex. This is the fee for Ethereum versus not Pulsex versus Uniswap, but the fee of Pulse on Pulsex. That fee, right? Because that's the biggest thing people talk about. They're not comparing the fees on the DEXs. People mentally are comparing the fees on the mainnet at this point. What I just described for you and almost went down that same path was what I personally believe, you can mark this and remind me in a couple years. I believe that the fees for the DEXs will come down over time. If you think of a market as competitive, and one of the more competitive markets that some believe, right, not everybody, but a very competitive market from most people's point of view, is the capital market, the market for money. And if you think of something like Pulsex or Uniswap, where the fee is 0.3% roughly for both, you have a ridiculous amount of money that is being made by liquidity providers. Multiple hundreds of % per year in certain cases. With, it appears, relative ease. I'm currently earning 100+% annually, and I'm not at all taking a risk, in my opinion. It is a very low risk, in my personal opinion, but I did a separate video on that. So the point of that being, though, that I think fees will work their way down as time goes on and new DEXs come out to compete. They're going to, I would presume, lower fees over time, because that's something that just naturally tends to take place with each new iteration to try to drive adoption. But that is not the point of this. When you look at the fee on Pulse, right, relative to Ethereum, and how that translates to the cost on the DEX, people don't even think about the cost of the DEX. They do. There's a small subset of people who do think about that, but the much broader fee that people think about is Ethereum fees, right? There's small little worlds within this that do definitely have those conversations about fees on the DEXs. I'm not trying to say that that conversation doesn't happen. It's just the much broader one is relative to Ethereum and Pulse. And if you look, we went from $20 to a fraction of a penny, right? So that's 4 decimal places difference, from 0.002 to 20 bucks. So those people who are interested in that can now come over to Pulsex and be able to do those transactions that are not profitable on Ethereum. So people who are interested in trading, people who do arbitrage, are very interested in Pulsex, to just name one reason. Now, when you pack on top of that the ridiculous amount of opportunity there is going to be due to every single one of the ERC20s being copied over onto Pulse, and for people to arb those and take advantage of those value discrepancies before other people see them and yield ridiculous profits with relative ease, there is going to be a tremendous amount of volume, in my opinion, because those people can't do those fees. And if you look at the research, higher fees means lower trading. So when you cut the trading cost by 10,000x, you're going to see a massive fuck ton. That's a technical term for a lot of volume on Pulsex. When you consider how big Uniswap is relative to Pulsex, so this is a separate video I should do. I'm going to just take this note here. So PLSX, apologize, because I really want to make sure that I'm able to capture this, because I think it's a super valuable point. 10,000, cool. Apologize for that. So when we take a look at this, the mind share of society, right, in the 2 largest search engines, Pulsex is getting search volume relative to Uniswap, the most popular DEX on the planet, with over $1 billion a day in transactional volume. And Pulsex, something that is not even available in the marketplace, is getting search volume relative to Uniswap, and not like crazy like with Pulsechain or Pulsex. I'm sorry, Pulsechain versus Ethereum, where it's non-existent. It is actually coming up against this incumbent and like showing up on the field, even though it's only minor. When we go to YouTube, it's even more interesting, because this is fascinating. People are ridiculous. This is amazing, right? Okay, so on YouTube, search volume relative to Pulsechain versus Ethereum. Pulsechain is showing up, and they are growing in popularity. So this is interesting. Going from a 1 in terms of relevance to 4 in 3 months, and then 5 in 1 month. Cool, that's amazing. That's fantastical, right? Ethereum started at 37 and it grew, but it's just kind of sitting there from over the last 90 days. Pulsex versus Uniswap. Pulsex is growing, and they're already 10% of the search volume at the 12-month mark. And let me show you this for a second at the 12-month mark to just give this more context to see how powerful it is, what I was just saying a moment ago, and that's why I need to talk about this. Pulsex. Let me scroll up so you can see this. Pulsex is in blue, obviously. Pulsex, sacrifice, didn't start until December, 6 months ago, roughly. Right? Mid-December. That means it wasn't anywhere in anybody's mind 6 months ago. 6 months ago, this idea, this brand, this thought experiment was released to the public. And this virus of an idea, is how you can think about it, has gone up against Uniswap in terms of just relative to them. And over the last 90 days, they've started to actually make some difference. Now, look at this stuff. This is insane. How much this is actually growing. Oops, I'm sorry. This is on web search. This is what we're looking at. Apologize for that. This is on YouTube. Look at this. This is astonishing, right? These are very similar things, but they're going to be so freaking different because of the things I just described. And over the last 30 days, Pulsex has been more popular in terms of search volume on YouTube than Uniswap. Think about that for a second. Uniswap, the largest DEX in the planet, with over $1 billion of search volume, transactional volume, has less search volume interest on YouTube over the last 30 days than something that isn't even out in the marketplace. This thing is going to be stupid with this amount of attention. And we're going to be tracking it right here. So make sure you press that subscribe button and the bell notification so that next time one of these videos comes out and you're like, oh my God, I gotta get to that information, you get notified of this awesome content. So if you want to help out on Twitter, as I mentioned, you found value here. If you found it interesting, if you're still fucking watching at this point, then you probably found some value in some way, or maybe you're just bored and fell asleep. If that's the case, good night. But if you're still here, jump down below to the Twitter, go over there, press the follow button, look at something that I've tweeted about recently, talked about recently that you find interesting, and retweet that. It will help me, as my opinion, that will probably be the only way I'll be able to beat my buddy in his bet at $10,000 that I can't get more followers than him on Twitter by July 30th. And if you like crazy great content, if you also like the fitness community and biohacking and the chemistry around bodybuilding or fitness or drugs related to health stuff or peptides or SARMs, all of that kind of stuff, as well as the mindset, you should check out the other YouTube channel. It's going to come up right over here. Just click over that channel. You can check it out as well. That's where all that stuff I talk about over there is. Lastly, there's also an Instagram down below. If you like daily content of the stories and whatnot and how Instagram plays out, check out Instagram down below. If you want to make sure to see content like this in the future, press the thumbs up button and leave a comment down below, because those are going to be things, you know, when you're subscribed to a channel, even if you have the notifications on, sometimes the videos don't come up. Actually, I should take that back, because I am not subscribed to anybody where I have the notifications come up. So take that last statement back. But right before that, if you are not subscribed and you press the thumbs up button and the comment, then the video will have a higher propensity to show up in your feed, right? So if you want that show up in your feed, do that shit. Or if you have any questions or thoughts, appreciate those. Peace out.